about writing fiction. I'm going to read from my new work, which is called The Portrait of Adie Denton. This is a very short piece that I'm going to read, and this is about. This is about a young woman called Adie Denton, who's from Far Cotton, across the road, and it's set in 1924. And again, I'm doing that thing of trying to sort of plumb into these unheard voices. What I've done is I've thrown a young working class woman from Northampton into an incredibly glamorous world of the fabulously wealthy lesbian demi-monde. And basically, Adie gets a job, gets the chance of the job, working for this woman. This is Radcliffe Hall, famously the celebrated writer of a book called The Well of Loneliness. That book came out as a band, actually. It was the first, regarded as probably the first sort of lesbian kind of novel that was asking for sympathy with people who were lesbian. And that's Radcliffe Hall and her partner, Una Trubridge. That's a painting of Lady Una Trubridge. So it's a lot of real people, they existed, amongst, as I say, a super rich lesbian demi-monde. And much of the book is set in a glamorous world of jazz-age 1920s Paris. But it starts across the road in Far Cotton. And Adie gets a job in the home of, she goes for a job in the home of Radcliffe Hall and Lady Una Trubridge. And Radcliffe Hall and Una Trubridge bred dogs, which is why the painting by Romain Brooks there shows her with a couple of dapplers. They were also, it has to be said, sympathetic with fascism. A lot of people were in those days, and I think what you need to remember is we were the other side of the Second World War then. So I'm not by any means excusing sympathy with fascism, but it would look different, is all I'm saying, from where they stood to where we stood. But certainly their dog breeding was all about kind of the idea that you could breed successfully. And that's kind of a fascist idea, isn't it? That's a Nazi idea. Yeah, I've tried to paint them as accurately as I can, but I've said, as I say, my characters are fiction. They're based on Radcliffe Hall and Lady Una Trubridge and all the other real people that appear in this book, but they're my version of it. They're my fiction. So I'm going to pick up with this in the drawing room in the posh house in Kensington where Radcliffe Hall and Una Trubridge lived, and Una Trubridge is conducting this interview. She's holding one of these dogs as she's doing it. They'd always got dogs sort of around them and in their lives. Tell me something about yourself, Miss Denton, if you please. Perhaps you could start with the position of your parents and family. Una Trubridge eyed Adie with the shrewdness of a housewife buying a cut of prime beef. My mother's dead, madam. She died last year, and my father's a clipper at Barrett's shoe factory. I'm the second oldest of 9 children. Adie hesitated as the door opened and a person entered who Adie assumed could only be Miss Radcliffe Hall. She wore breeches and a brocade smoking jacket. Her short hair was parted on the left and brilliantine flat to her head. Ah, John dear, this is Miss Denton. She's come about the position. Adie was paralysed with embarrassment. Of course she had seen women dressed as men in play acting. She had done so herself. There was even a woman who wandered purposelessly around Northampton, dressed in an ill-fitting gentleman's suit. They called her Queer Marge, but she was regarded as a freak. She'd been carted away to the big house when she became violent towards some young men. People said she'd kicked one of them where it hurts. Adie had not, before this moment, encountered someone so outlandish being treated quite normally by another person. She looked at the floor to hide her confusion and thought about the scullery maid's sordid comments and cackling laughter. Good afternoon, Miss Denton. Radcliffe pursed her lips as if in thought and nodded slightly. Good afternoon, ma'am. Adie was already uncertain of titles in this situation, and now this genderless person confused the issue further. Miss Denton, do you read and did you pen your application letter yourself? Una Troubridge cut in with a welcome question. Oh yes, madam, I did, and I'm quite a keen reader. I've read all the Brontes books, Mr. Dickens, and... Yes, very well, Una Troubridge interrupted her. Then you may have read Miss Hall's latest book of verse. Oh no, miss, I'm sorry, miss, I didn't know you were a poet. I don't read much poetry, though I've just been reading a poem in the train. Adie realised her mistake immediately. She certainly did not want to discuss Oscar Wilde in this setting. Fortunately, neither Una nor John was in the least interested in Adie's reading matter. Cooking, sewing, washing, pressing clothes, running errands, taking calls on the telephone, and assisting Miss Percival in the general running of the house. Una Troubridge posed the list as a question. I'm a decent plain cook and I can sew. I'm one of 9, so I'm no stranger to washing and pressing. I've never answered a telephone, but I am a quick learner. Lady Troubridge passed the dachshund to Radcliffe Hall, who, staring directly at Adie, stroked the animal into complete indiscreet submission. Then the Troubridge woman picked up a fountain pen and handed it to Adie. She indicated a pad of notepaper on the table in front of her. Copy this down, Miss Denton. Adie took the pen and shifted in her seat. Una Troubridge looked adoringly at Radcliffe Hall and began. When thy hands touch me, all the world is compassed within the limits of their slender whiteness. Adie dutifully copied down the short verse. When she had finished, Lady Troubridge took up the sheet of paper and showed it to Radcliffe Hall, who nodded approvingly. You've a pleasing hand, Miss Denton. She held the paper in hands that Adie thought bony, not slender. Adie blushed and looked into her lap. Thank you. She had given up trying to guess how to address either of these weird sisters. Lady Troubridge rang a small bell on the table. Unless you've any further questions, Miss Percival will show you out. We shall be in touch within a week. The advertisement mentioned travel. Would the post be here in London? Adie longed to see more of the world. She had spent all her life in Northampton, and the one thing that would tempt her to take this job would be the chance to see some of the places she had only read about in novels. This time Radcliffe Hall answered, and Adie blushed crimson. We shall spend springtime at Paris and then the Basque Coast. Would that appeal to you, Miss Denton? Oh yes, very much so. Adie stumbled, but the word was out. Radcliffe Hall's smile broadened, showing a row of perfect, small, white teeth. Miss Percival entered as the dachshund began to yap. Not a bark, but a strangled, throaty sound, as if it was about to be sick. Adie followed the housekeeper out of the room, unnoticed by either of her interrogators, whose attention was now fully engaged with the retching pup.